Hi, and welcome to this month's Share the Hobby Love. This is March. We're going to go through some awesome hobbyists and look at their amazing work. Last time, about 100 and something, 150 people joined in, and it was a little bit overwhelming, to say the least. Going forward is, if you've been in the previous one, I will share your work on Instagram, but I won't talk about it on YouTube. We've got 80 amazing artists to get through. Hopefully you get to discover some really cool and interesting people and find some amazing things. Please like and subscribe to help that algorithm gods. That would be awesome. We're going to start off with over 30 in 40k with this awesome Gorkanaut or Morkanaut. I can't remember what the difference is between the two. It's a lovely model, super chonky. Really like the rust on the skull. The lovely like bone textures of each spike makes them just look so much like they have looted it from some massive creature that now sadly doesn't have any teeth and is probably dead. Brutzelbrut with this demon prince. I really like the head on this. I think it has a lovely organic texture. The sort of like washed out gross blue sneaking into the bat wings as well. It just looks disgusting and gross. Creates a really nice bright contrast with the shiny red armor. Looks class. Nevermore minis with this great kitbash of the new Lord Solar, and it's pretty wild. There's a real feel of it as if it's like a grimdark ride at a theme park. The way that you've got this extending arm actually holding up the corpse while it goes along. This could absolutely be an in-law model. The concept of basically having a sainted figure that's just wheeling slowly around the battlefield to to keep everyone as inspired as possible is amazing. Lovely work here. The little skeleton arms, a bit like a scarecrow. It is just fantastic at every part of it. I love it. Realm of Miniatures with this Cadron Overlords flyer. Not big on my AoS, but I am big on the models because that looks phenomenal. It's such a cool model. I really like the fact that he's done a sea base as well. That is something that you don't always see, and the lovely sense of a kind of that it's a sort of balloon sea boat is absolutely cracking. Ogre Egg miniatures. If you know about this, you know about this. It's something that I genuinely like. I watched it because I thought the aesthetic looked really cool, and then I really regret watching it. It's just like it's one of those things where it just has images that burn into your brain and you can never unsee them. You wish that I could unsee them. But anyway, this is Griffith from Berserk, and it's an absolutely beautiful sculpt, and it has captured him so perfectly. Jack's mini painting with the Golden Demon entry. I'm so excited to see this in person at Warhammer Fest. It's such a classic moment, and he's really captured that explosive feeling of the ship coming out. I love people working off the original artwork, and this looks pure class. Fortress Halcyon with Inquisitor Greyfax. I'm painting her at the moment. She is very fiddly, but has got some lovely details on her. I sadly didn't give her a crossbow, but you know, I've got that piece waiting for me for some nice kit bash, because what an outrageous kit. Just a sculpt from straight from the imagination of John Blanche almost. They've done an absolutely cracking job here. Love the flames, love the gold. A really nice red contrast with the cloak as well. She looks brutal. Illogic is probably one of my favourite makers and a definite inspiration at the moment with the three-dimensionality of his sculptures and dioramas. Creates things with huge amounts of detail, which I love. The thing that I really like about them is the sense of the depth of field and movement around the different parts of the miniatures. So I try to post videos of his rather than still photos, because I think the videos really do it justice, because they are just so brutally massive. There's a mixture of amazing construction work on the bridge spars that's sticking out and beautiful like flower work on all the raising flowers around. I think this is going to be one of his many brilliant pieces of art. Dyphus, the old one, I would love to play a game on that table. I would absolutely love it. It's so well laid out. The fortress sections are amazing. The gate, just every part of it, and just the little bridge at the bottom as well. It looks absolutely wild. I had a bit of a chat, and he was talking to me about all of the different ways that he sets up his games, and it just looks amazing. This is a real hobby inspiration for me and hobby goals. I would love to achieve a table of this level. Cathar the Great and this little miniature city. It's genius. It is real genius. It's really inspiring. He's using sort of 40k bits to make like a city out of a completely different scale. It's a really interesting way of using the parts. I immediately wanted to make something based on it myself, like straight away. It just gives me inspiration to start modeling immediately. Yeah, lovely use of shape and texture and all the different parts of it. Just beautiful, brilliant. Spider House creates this horrifying model. At first glance, it's absolutely awful, but then you notice the snaking, cabling face, and it is just terrifying. The wannabe painter, lovely flesh tones on this obliterator. The skull head makes all the difference, really captures that feel of something that is basically, he's got his entire wish to have the most gun, but it's come with a horrible cost. Old school Jules getting some of his old collection out and starting anew with some orcs. There is something just wonderful about that old orc boy kit. It's so versatile, it's really fun to build. If you're ever getting fed up with the hobby and you're really not having a nice time, I really always recommend getting some sort of orc kit. There's so many on eBay. You could find like knackered old ones. They are such a pure joy to build. These look class. Can't wait to see more from you. Copper Potts Minis making his own Necron destroyers and smashing it. The insectile body at the back really balances out the massive gun. It just looks weirder and more alien than normal Necrons do, and I think that is exactly the way to go with Necrons. It looks amazing. Can't wait to see a whole army of these. Grimspark Minis. This lovely kit bash, nice mixed use of Admech and Sisters kits to just create this new creation that has got a huge amount of character. I love the OSL on it. It does some amazing storytelling and I'm massively here for it. Marius Ojan and this Mordheim city scene. Everyone loves Mordheim. I particularly love it. I think that it's immediately very distinct. I think that with the new Cities of Sigmar launch, there's a big potential to expand upon it and make new models for it. Every detail on here, you can really tell it's a massive labour of love. Tiny little rats in the corners, the grubbiness of it, the lights. This is beyond epic. The Surface World has come up with this awesome world, an amazing game that goes with it, and the models for it are done by lots of different sculptors. They have so much personality. I can't wait to get my hands on them. They're really interesting sculpts and very creative, fit the setting perfectly. I'm really interested to see where he goes with it and what happens with all the different creatures. The story, it's really worth checking out for inspiration, but also worth checking out for an awesome game system. Pain Mauser Minis and these hysterical feudal world machines. They just look fantastic. I really like their clumping their way through Tyrannid infected land. Props for having a Jacaro on the shoulder as well. I love the idea that these kind of like proto knights, perhaps how even the knights should have been when they did have AI in them. Some really beautiful paintwork on the loincloth as well. Props for photographing them outside, it looks great. Roger Snorlax. And this amazing, yeah, this is amazing. It's such a haunting photograph. There's something, I immediately want to know more about the setting. I want to see like the wider world that it's in. It's a lovely bit of storytelling. It just is so brutal. And the bell having the tarnished copper just looks amazing. El Crinjo 78, great name. Slowly seeing your frame come to life, and I'm really here for it. It's very cool to see your painting coming along, and she is looking as regal as she should do because she is a boss. Juan Miguel Arena, this beautiful squid character. It's hysterically fun, but it's also like spectacularly painted. I love the vibrancy of the color work you've done on this. It looks absolutely beautiful, and I'd be proud to own something that's standard. Gruera miniatures, one of the most suspicious backgrounds chapters, the Minotaurs. It looks like they've even got their own night house now. If you don't know who the Minotaurs are, they're basically a mysterious chapter that hangs nearish around Terra. They are often deployed when a High Lord needs something sorted out. They are specifically tied to the High Lords, and they were possibly created to them in some way, and they break lots of laws about impartiality and keeping chapters apart. There hasn't been much about them since Gilliman got back, but I'm sure there'll be some interesting lore about them soon. This though looks fantastic, just mid-moment, having taken the absolute victory, killing a Chaos Knight, tearing its head off. Absolutely fantastic. Joseph's side art, and I chose this one because I really like the color work. I love the contrasting colors of the red and the teal. It's an interesting model. I've not seen it before. It creates a real sense of movement and speed, and I love that. I have to celebrate Astropunk. I championed their work while they were doing Lego, and now they're moving into 40k, so I am super excited. And it's very cool to see. So this is one of the first, and this is a Contemptor Dreadnought. Very cool to see this Dreadnought. I'm really excited to see their journey because they're an incredibly creative maker, and I think they're going to get to grips with it and just make some absolute wild stuff. So my recommendation comes early. Reclusiarch Laurentis, what an epic setup. It reminds me of like Cannabolt, the like endless runner game. Real sense of scale and majesty. I could just hear the 80s power ballads playing. But yeah, props to you, because this is fantastic work and such an amazing setup for photography. Apocrypha now, and a mixture of an amazing space crab, very ghostly, almost nautical Maori Luid. Yeah, it looks amazing. I chose this obviously because it's got an amazingly cool, disgusting crab model on it, but really nice, beautiful paintwork, so restrained and powerful as anything. Lord Shader, and how could I possibly resist this pig shield? It is pure class. I think it really offsets it really offsets the sort of like Golden Demon standard, like stunning paintwork, and then he's got this lovely pig picture. It works really amazingly well, because obviously that guy, you know, this man, goblin, whatever he is, probably wouldn't be able to paint as well as Lord Shader. So his pig, it's just a really nice contrast of two styles, and it looks amazing. Always in awe of Lord Shader's free hands, and his pig is no exception. Nurse Studio, big fan of their work, and they've been sharing a lot of their commission work they've done, and this is a sort of Kraken model they've done for somebody, and it was really nice to see the sort of full range of it. I think it could be very easy to get bogged down in sharing like maybe a specific faction or like one type of thing, so that, you know, you're building an audience around that specific type. But really, once you're into miniatures, you just want to see, well, I mean, I just want to see as many different types and weird things as physically I can jam in my eyes. So it's cool to see this. It's amazing. Paul's brushwork, with some amazing brushwork. I need a whole new vocabulary to describe different styles of Nurgle models. I think this one, I would say, is probably maybe like Nurgle Seraphon. There's something jungly about. There's something similar to the way that the jungle set up things you've got with the megaphones in the back and the little sort of styluses, but this, yeah, it just looks brilliant. And the orange hood is such a nice contrast with the blues and greens of the model as well. It looks brilliant. Took 40k with their homebrewed guard faction. Guard players got a bit of a rough deal getting the last codex in the edition, but I'm sure a lot of the rules will carry over. These look amazing. Lovely bits of kit bashing on all of them. You can see where some of the helmets are and where one of the power arms is from, but like, I really like the sort of hodgepodge of different styles. They all look super coherent while actually being like very individual. So yeah, epic. Painting ships with an absolute masterclass in restraint. This looks amazing. Those, I'd say 5, 6, 7 really strong highlights around the neck, around on the pauldron, maybe a part of the knee, and maybe just 1 point on the Aquila. Serious skill. Maybe the best custodians I've ever seen. Look at this and all. Thrones Arcana, taking their wintry theme to the absolute max and sticking it out in the snow. It just blends nicely into the background. I love what you've done with this. It looks amazing. I love all the snow details, but my favourite detail, my favourite part of the whole thing are the reflections on the lenses on all of the Auspex kind of, or lens scanning equipment at the top. They are just on point and they look perfect. Crimson Storm 508. It's got lots of different characters he uses for RPGs. He makes the characters differently for the games and then updates them as the games go along. And so he's got this collection of like really flavorful kit bashes that have got a real personal feeling to them. I love the level of characterization that they've got with them. I think you can just see the pure joy and fun that they have with this hobby. Speaking of fun, Gutter de Gaff. Lots of people are not fans of the so-called nappy dreadnought or the baby carrier for the Grey Knights, and I think more people would be a fan if this was the variation of them, because my god, that is an amazingly epic model. It's so nails and over the top, and I think there's something about the fact that it's got such a dynamic pose that really adds to it. There is something heroic about every part of it. It has that mixture of kind of, there's loads of really nice baroque details on it. This is a superb kit bash and I love every bit of it. The pancake, showing what you could do with a bit of imagination and a really strong vision of your own chapter. This looks absolutely epic, from the hideous snout helmet to using like the fantastic purple power axe. This marine just has so much flavor. All of their marines are amazing, and I absolutely love the epic backdrop. It's metal as anything. Daredevil's Craft doing something that I would love to be able to do, and I've spent quite a lot of time looking at this model, just looking at the different color work. Great example of the best work in progress shots to show, because you can really see how their process is going, what the steps are, and like how to do it at the end. I often find that like when you're trying to learn something, it's quite difficult I find it really difficult to film while I'm painting, because I don't necessarily know what I'm doing, just like slapping on. But when somebody's got like a lovely process, it's really interesting to see how this works. And I'd love to work more with doing like pearlescent armor, and this looks class. Freewill Keeper with one of his many grot marines. It's so ridiculous, but every part of it is just kind of pure joy. I'm sure grots would work out how to use power armor if they found an entire power armor suit intact, more or less. You know, if they believe they can use it, they can use it. I love it, mate. Mikkel's minis and the cutest models. These are rootlings, I think for Turnip 28. They're so adorable. They must look amazing on the tabletop. So much fun. So they've got so much personality, each and every one of them. Googly wound-eyed widget skull with this marine looking absolutely brutal. I chose this because I really like the macro photography. I just think you've captured the essence of the model, and how from the perspective of something that's the last time it will ever see anything ever again. Aiden's minis with these absolutely disgusting root bugs. There's something so grotesque about the like woody, fleshy textures to them. Like they're a bit like termites. They're such a unique and brilliant creation, and I really want to stop looking at them, but I can't look away. Nariak miniatures, and the moment that convinced me to buy some new warlocks. I've got about 12 of the metal warlocks and some of the bike ones, and I do use them in game. The expensive price point has put me off until I saw this, because it is so beautiful. It's exactly what I imagined when I use Eldar. It's a very brilliant job on just creating a beautiful base for it and elevating the miniature to just wondrousness. The other one looks absolutely mint as well. This is just absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to see them painted, and yeah. Yeah, thanks for costing me some money. Eon McMinis, capturing a real sense of nobility in this model. There's something very Greco-Roman about it, from the brush helm to the laurel leaves. I love the big beard. Created a real feel here, and I love it. I love the scripture on the leg pad as well. It looks fantastic. Timberman hasn't shared a lot, but what he has shared is absolutely cracking. This is a Catan. There's something a bit shonky about the original model. It doesn't quite like match up anymore to the brand new sculpts. Yet he has updated it to absolutely match like the brand, the newest of the new. It just looks fantastic, super angelic, quite creepy. Ground floor miniatures and this lovely diorama. Real sense of holding the door. Particularly like the waterfall. I create such a nice sense of movement on the whole model. This looks interesting, fascinating from all the different angles. Really nice, lovely attention to detail on the marble floor, with just the like little dividing lines on each of the models. The bases match up perfectly, and the lovely bit of greenery that does onto the orcs as well. These this is a fantastic little scene. Speaking of fantastic scenes, Flying Cat Loo. They've captured the sense of eldritch horror here, which I think is really very difficult to capture in model form. The idea of there's an infinite horror that you can't look away from, and that is virtually brain breaking. It's very hard to do in real life, but having this drowned baby's face with all the tentacles, it's so horrible, but a wonderful piece of modelling. Really is spectacular. Morning Val, smashing it with the Avatar of Cain. Beautiful model, and they're doing a beautiful job on the paint as well. My favourite bits are the Wailing Doom and the hat ears. What are they called? Veins? The veins? Oh yeah, that, and the helmet ears. Colours and the transitions between the hot spots and the darker spots look exactly right for stuff that is molten and it's full of flame. So bravo. Heavy metal pockers. a fantastic and hysterical name. It is fantastic and hysterical model. Yeah, I feel like an ogre would 100% just tie a puny human to the top of his banner. How else are you going to get heard on the battlefield? The Militarum painter with this Black Templars crusading dreadnought. I think one of the problems with the Black Templars is because they've got such a recognizable scheme, it's very easy. It's not very easy, but people do tend to make Black Templar models look like Black Templar models. Does that make sense? It's not really criticism. I suppose maybe it's a bit like Ultramarines. It's awesome to see when people do something and maybe a little bit different, or the scheme is slightly changed. This is really kind of lent super into the Crusade iconography of it, and I think that works really well. Lovely industrial yellow on the Power Fist and the Twin Link Las Cannon really makes you feel like they're alerting you to the danger in advance. Colonel Schaefer's Last Chances was such an amazing kit, and Half Painted Hero has been painting up each of them to look spectacularly amazing, and this is one of my all-time favorites, Brains. I think that the models themselves are starting to show their age a little bit because the proportions have really changed. From a really classic modeling standpoint, captures an amazing point of time, and the paint job has really elevated to it. The model's got so much character from just the slightly opening backpack and the cabling that goes into his ears. Brains has never looked so good. It looks amazing. London Skroink with this amazing kitbash. Just looks so powerful. I love the conjured warp chaos bird that's coming out of his Power Fist, and the green stuff cloak, brutally disgusting. I'm very excited to see where this goes. The second avatar of this roundup, Linden TBG, with this beautiful version. The mixture of the greens and blues look absolutely fantastic. I really like the vibrancy of it. Something it just nailed the fact that this is a warp creature from a dimension beyond. Broly Goblin with Yvraine during her witch cult days. Yvraine's a funny one. I think it's always very difficult to capture Eldar in exactly the way that you want to do them, but I think here it really captured that sort of the wildness and the sort of extreme violence and weirdness of life in the gladiator pits. Amazing. Lion and Wolf Studio with a sort of masterclass in how to doing lighting. All of the little points of light across the armor plates of the dreadnought look amazing, and the actual sort of the physical gun itself just looks wild. This is a really nice composition to the whole model. I love this smashed in character. It just looks class. The hairy orc and his amazing war boss. When I first got back into the hobby, I was really tempted to just to go, because the orc models are so good from AoS and from 40k, and Elder hadn't really been upgraded that much. I wasn't as excited I was to get back into them. There weren't a lot of new models that weren't out when I'd previously quit 15 years before. Orc models especially do look amazing. I think this creates such a great base to build off, and it's really cool to see something 40k based on it. A really good job with the base and that little bit of storytelling with the power pack at the back and the chain wrapped around. Matesh Ringo and this beautiful diorama. There's so many interesting textures and colours and gross stuff going on here. Created a real sense of brutal creature coming out from this horrible troll tunnel, but there's something almost ornamental about the garden as well. I just want to explore it. It looks like a lovely spot to relax if this creature wasn't there to rip your face off. The hobby dungeon, I really love the fact that Annihilation and The Last of Us have just inspired so many hobby people, because it's such an amazing aesthetic, and this is brutal. I love this extended arm coming out of it, and the head and the neck, and you can't what's growing and what bit is the original creature. It just looks fantastic. And once it's painted, it's going to look amazing. It looks amazing now, but once it's painted, it's going to look even better. Tempest Terrain, showing how just a little bit of the change in texture and sometimes matching up to the base can create a real feeling of being in the how do I explain this? Of being in the world at the time. You could just see the metallic undertones, but you notice like how much everything is covered in the same texture as the base, and it looks like it has emerged having been buried for a huge amount of time. This is brilliant. My nerdy hobby, something that is really nice to see you. It's got so many eyes. It's so grotesque. I love that head. I think that head is one of the best that GW have ever produced. It just makes things look as weird as anything. Cinch has really taken over this model, and I'm 100% here for it. No Wolf Alone with this wonderful portal diorama. Chose this because I really like the swirl that I've created and also the colour that they've used on it. It just captures amazing feel of like 80s, 70s, 80s horror movies, and that lovely sort of painted matte background that you might get in something like Ghostbusters. Yeah, this looks brilliant. Empyrean with what I think will probably end up being one of my favourite hobby projects of the year. So, I love the original sculpt, but it is maybe a little bit what's the words? Maybe it is a little bit over-sexualized, but here he's kind of powered it up. I love the cloak going over the arm, the almost dueling pose with the swept back, just ready to draw. His Inquisitor and retinue looks powerful as anything. The lovely extended hair up into the top of it just looks absolutely fantastic. Every part of this I love. Stephen likes minis with this long man. I don't really know what the lore is for this, but it doesn't really matter. I love that it's on a windowsill as well. It just looks so sinister. If you found that in your house and you didn't know where it had come from, I think you would be very disturbed. There's a kind of weird mixture of like straw bear, wicker man, like medieval knight. The model looks amazing. The paintwork on it just captures it so nicely. It is creepy as anything. It is totemic. Gold Gauntlet. Dominion model's fantastic, and I love the work he's done on the armor here. I saved this as a painting reference because the textures and the colors and the rust just looks absolutely fantastic. It's wonderful. Phano.wh. There's something Phano.wh with this book Nook. There's something really cool about in-shelf dioramas to sit on your bookshelf. My bookshelves are currently covered in like every single bit of hobby material I possibly have. When I eventually move, I'll be able to clear those off. And this is an absolute masterclass in how to create story and feel through different sections of the model. I love the sunset at the very top of it. I don't know exactly what's going on here. I don't know what these like bloody lumps are, but I'm sure that it's got like an amazing story behind it. But this looks wonderful. Dark Castle Miniatures capturing, updating one of Games Workshop's iconic model releases, the Praetorians. Fun kind of recreation of Rorke's Drift with orcs, bulkiness of the more modern guard models with the kind of slightly more industrial helmets, but I think they capture some of the jarringness of the incredibly brightly coloured uniforms and actually all kind of tabletop stuff, that the sort of lack of camouflage. Ingu Pinter, this is quite a difficult one because in some ways it's so cute, but then it looks extremely violent as well. There's a mixture of drone from, and I think maybe it's based on that, sort of Star Wars models, the robots, what are they called, in Star Wars prequels, which could have been really brutal but ended up being very cartoonish. But then the like grimdark paint job of it, it looks very much like the Rogue Trader Killer Robot art. I think this is wonderful. It's wonderfully brutal. I love the paint job on it. It's so grimy and fantastic. Mini Doc Studios making Lorgar actually look quite cool. There's something sort of Mr. Freeze about the head, but actually I think it really works. The whole model has a particular sense to it, wretched brutality, and yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Like, it makes the character look more interesting, and it makes it, there's something kind of mixture of like haloed about it, as if it's kind of illuminated from above, but also sort of shades of the underworld. I don't know, it makes Lorgar look absolutely epic, to be honest, and yeah, I think you've done a great job. Greenwood minis and doing what every hobbyist would love to do, bringing their desk to life. And in this case, this desk looks it's got lots of compartments, also got some big grabby arms. This captures a lovely RPG moment. I would love to know exactly what happened next. Tech Priest Ward, and I think this is the Patriarch model, one of the Gene Stealer models. I'm really hyped for the new Tyranid launch. When I first left the hobby, they just did this sort of the second big update of them, and I'm really excited to see like how their aesthetic changes and what sort of new creatures they come up with. I'm gonna be really tempted. Whenever I look at Tyranid models, I'm really tempted. And this particularly looks absolutely brilliant. I love the like bright green highlighting. The claws and the tail look extremely toxic. It just looks brutal and violent and horrifying. Sam does Alpha Legion with this Alpha Legionnaire. Basically, it's a very old, it's the first ever like Rogue Trader Terminator model, and it's amazing to see how the sculpts have changed. You can really see that the scale of the legs compared to the new scale. I'd say probably that's the real biggest change is the leg scale really in all kind of like Space Marine models, and that's what the Terminators really needed, and now they have it, and the new scale of them looks amazing. But you can see that it's just such a classic, iconic design, and he's done a brilliant job on this. It looks amazing. Chaos Chick, the model kind of speaks for itself. The paintwork the model itself is absolutely brilliant. There's no unquestioned wonderful use of different pieces, wonderful use of the back proboscis bits of Necron to create this wonderful elephantine but yet spiky head. This beautifully gross this beautifully gross flensed fleshy look, and then the bright red cloak creates some really nice and brutal contrast. I love everything about this model. I love everything about this piece. It's amazing. Hampus Hobbies and these incredibly chunky marines. My absolute favorite is the top middle. I love how brutally massive. I love how brutally massive they all are, to be honest. they look. The scaling on them is fantastic, and these are sort of kits where I see the pictures and then I immediately have to go and find out where all the different parts of them, even the flamers, that kind of broad heavy flamer to it, just makes it look. I love the scale of this, and the paint jobs on these are fantastic as well. Grey you think grey could be boring, and then you look at this and just think, oh, it's amazing. John's miniature art, nailing the feel of Space Wolf Gravis Captain with these these wonderful wolves coming behind them. The base itself is wonderful. I would really like to know how he did all the stalactites, because they've just got a level of shininess and translucentness I haven't seen before. It just looks fantastic, and the paint work with that lovely central highlight on the armor. I wish I could paint that well. This is a cracking piece. Second Dawn miniatures with their Smash Bash 2023 entry. Not really sure what's going on, but I don't need to know what's going on because it looks grotesque and wonderful. Really reminds me of some of the twisting, changing shape art at the beginning of Hannibal, the series. I'm really excited to see what happens here. The Real Sieg. And this model for Necromunda, straight out of John Blanche illustration. The helmet looks amazing. The sort of blank face paint, the hazard stripes. This is it's the Harlequin face on the shoulder pad as well. There's some serious modelling skills going on here, because the sort of mise-en-scène of the whole thing is just amazing. Ordo Edifactor. I chose this because I love the OSL, but I love the weirdness of these kitbashes. There's something brutally robotic about them, they kind of remind me a little bit of the Borg. There's that. I love the scenes where you've got characters in Star Trek walking around, say, a Borg cube, because the Borg don't know they're there. None of the Borg are actually aware of them. They are just working parts in the machine, and you don't always get that with the sense. I love the AdMech models, but you don't necessarily get the sense that they are not fully sentient, each of them, that they are slaves, whereas here they are slave to kind of like a general consciousness, whereas here you really get that sense. Horus Appreciator, not appreciating Horus here, appreciating some Eldar with this wonderful Wraith Guard. What a classic model! Really enjoyable to paint, and I love this scheme. I like the cold bone armor and the lovely ombre blue. Nice touch with the kind of yellow spirit stones. I think it's just works really nicely. Squared paints smashing it with this Night Lord. Reminds me of Castlevania artwork. I think quite difficult to make Night Lords actually look brutal, because the scheme doesn't necessarily match what they should look like. But here you can see it just looks terrifying, and I think the eyes really make it. Those just like pinpricks of orange. It looks horrifyingly brutal. Green Mank with this absolutely styling weasel cat thing. So this is what I like to imagine myself when I'm painting, as I am when I'm painting. So probably not. But yeah, how much fun is that? Shades of Warg with a masterclass in how to paint white. It looks like it's appropriately dirty from the world that it's in. There's lovely highlights. It's got a really nice smoothness to it, but the kind of patches of grey and dirt really make it look lived in. Banging. Arlen's painting in this lovely bug marine. Really reminds me of Invader Zim. I think probably because of the bulging green eyes. I like to think this particular Chaos Marine probably had like an extreme phobia of insectile life. So you know he's got a lot of power, but he's ended up looking like this. But yeah, it's brilliant fun. Last but not least, this wonderful Magos. This thing obviously does have some free will, but it has really started to replace every bit of flesh from it. It's kind of masterclass in how to do really restrained. I think it's quite hard to use Martian Earth with restraint, and yet here they really have it. Rather than creating this flat red texture, there's a lot of variation in the base, and it's lovely how it fits onto the robes. I think this model looks absolutely brilliant. Right, well, I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope you've got some inspiration from those models. The next one will be in not very long now, because it'll probably be on April the 1st. If you want to join in, please go onto my Instagram, look out for my Instagram story on 1st of April, react to it, and if you haven't been in the previous one, I will feature one of your artwork in a video exactly the same as this. It's really not very long to Warhammer Fest. I'm really excited about it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. So if you're there, please say hello. Be absolutely cracking to see you. I hopefully will fit in some videos before then, but we will see. If you would like to subscribe to my Patreon link is below. It's very cool. There's a really awesome Discord community that is ever growing, and I'm sure it's going to end up being amazing, and it helps me build some epic things. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.